Hi, Andy Herringshaw with Tractor Innovations. Today I'm in Bend, Oregon to show you the installation of this remote hydraulic kit on a Kubota L6060. This is the most affordable and easiest way to get a set of remote hydraulics on your tractor. This is going to install really easily to his loader circuit with the valve mounting right up here on the firewall to give him a set of remotes. These can run to the back. That's what we're going to do today to power this angled snow plow. But you can also hook up a hydraulic top link, hydraulic side link to tilt your implement side to side, or really anything you could want to hook up to the rear. These remotes can also go to the front to power a grapple or other implement. He's got a big bale accumulator and grapple on the front. We'll be powering that up later as well. With just a few simple tools, you can get a set of remotes installed on your tractor and be up and running often under an hour. So stick with me, I'm going to show you all the steps to put this kit together. All right, the first step to this installation is going to be mounting the valve onto the tractor. This metal firewall between the hood and dash is a great place to mount this valve. So I can hold it up here in place, and I'm going to route the hoses forward and kind of through this triangle of the loader arm and the cylinder, because eventually these supply hoses are going to connect to your loader circuit right there. So those hoses are out of the way, and I'm just going to take a look. I know that there's nothing sensitive right behind this since I've done this installation before, but in just a second we'll pop the hood, feel behind there, make sure everything is good to go. So there's a seam right here. I like to go just below that seam, center the holes for the valve right there, and I've got a transfer punch I'm going to slide right through there to mark my holes for drilling. All right, I've got my 2 spots to drill with a 5/16 inch drill bit. I'm going to open those up, and then the valve will mount right there. I've got the hood open, and now I can feel behind this firewall, and there's nothing sensitive right there. No wires, no fuel tank, no exhaust. You really want to be careful as you're drilling you don't hit anything important. So I'm going to drill those 2 holes. Bolts will go through and mount the valve. Since I'm using a 5/16 drill bit and these are 5/16 bolts, I round those holes out just a little bit so it goes through there easy. Let me grab the bolts out of the hardware kit and we'll mount that valve. I'm just going to put everything in there. And for mounting this valve, I've got 2.5 inch bolts. Grab that, washers, lock washers, and nuts, and we'll get it mounted. For each bolt hole, I'm going to take a bolt and a washer and drop it right in to the valve and right there through the hole. Repeat for the second hole. All right, now for the hardest part of the entire installation, getting the nut and lock washer on the back side of these bolts. Okay, I'm still working on getting the lock washer and nut on the back of this bolt. Okay, the hardest part is getting the nut right on this top part. So I've taped the nut and I got the washer on, but taping the nut to something flexible. I tried taping it to my pinky, but I couldn't get the angle quite right. So I think fishing this in, I can see when it's in the right spot. Got it. All right, now that the nut is started, I can hold on to the back of it and tighten this up. All right, I got the valve mounted, but getting the nuts and washers on the back of that was way tougher than I expected. So on the kit you can order, it's going to include nut zerts, where you're going to just drill a hole, pop this nut in, and pull it out with a special tool to lock it in place. And then it creates a captive nut that this bolt will just thread right into. I'm going to show you on the bench how to do that with a piece of metal right now. Welcome to my home shop, the world headquarters of Tractor Innovations. I want to show you how to install one of these riv nuts into a plate of metal without using any formal tools. Let's imagine this is the firewall of your tractor. We want to mount the valve here to the face of it. We can put a riv nut in there that will hold on to a bolt
without having to reach behind and do the gymnastics to get a lock washer and nut on there. So to do that, we're going to drill a hole that's the right size for this 5/16 inch riv nut. That the hole is 7/16 inch, and then I'm going to show you arrangement of bolts to install this without using the formal tools. If you do happen to have the right tool, of course, you thread a riv nut on there, squeeze this down, and it's going to collapse that serrated part. That's what we want to collapse. So I'll show you one with the formal tool, one with an improvised tool, and we get great results with either one. So you've got your valve, you hold it up to the firewall of your tractor. It's going to be like that, but since I've got a vise, I'm going to use it. And you can mark those holes with a pencil and then come back and drill them. My favorite is to use a transfer punch and just go ahead and have it ready for drilling. Set that punch right in the middle. We are going to drill to 7/16 inch, but I sure like to have a pilot hole to start. Of course, if you're drilling on a tractor, be aware of what's behind that panel. If you're drilling on this firewall, there could be fuel tank, there could be things behind there. Think about the length of your drill bit and what you could be hitting. If you've got something sensitive behind there, slide a piece of plywood, thin piece of metal, something behind what you're drilling, so if you punch through too hard, you're not going to hit something sensitive. All right, we don't want to waller out that hole too much. We want it really to be just the right size for these riv nuts. So try not to go too much to the side. All right, with the holes made there, I can check it with my valve. Yep, those holes are just in the right spot. So let's start with the professional riv nut tool. We start with this thing open. Riv nut goes on there tight. You can hold it still and twist this knob in the middle if you like, if you've got a similar tool. We go in with it, squeeze all the way, and thread it out. We got a really nice collapse of that serrated area, and you can see a little bit of the drill filings on the back, not a problem. That's going to hold really nicely. We're going to be looking for the same results from our improvised tool. All right, to put this together, I've got an 1.5-inch bolt that's threaded all the way up. That's important that we've got enough threads on there. A nut that fits the bolt. These are 5/16 inch. A washer on there. And then an important piece of this is some sort of flat steel that's got about the right size hole in it that you can hold on to while you're cranking this nut down. In this kit, this T-bracket comes with the kit, so that's a perfect candidate. If you've got some other flat piece of steel with about a 5/16 hole in it, you can use that. All these parts are in the kit, so you can at least do this in the field if you'd like. So with those held together, bolt, nut, washer, flat steel, we can put the riv nut on. And you can see here on the back side, we've got threads coming all the way down. Whatever you do, don't pull on this riv nut unless you've really got full thread engagement, or you'll strip out the top part of it. Okay, so this can go into the hole. I'm going to use a pair of vice grips to hold on to the bolt on the top. And we want room to work with the nut underneath there, so I'm going to just put the vice grips right on the bolt. And I've got a 1/2-inch wrench ready to do the motion right in here. You probably can't do this with an adjustable wrench or a 13mm. You want exactly a 1/2-inch wrench to really be able to get good force on that bolt and have it thin enough to do the work. So vice grips and the flat piece of steel are going in one hand, wrench in the other. Set the riv nut in with a little pressure on it. And now I'm going to twist that nut to the right. So we are pulling up on the riv nut and collapsing that serrated part. You can go one flat face of the nut at a time or two, but we're basically looking for 2 complete revolutions of the nut. If you keep pushing beyond that, you'll probably strip out the bolt. If you do less than that, it's not going to be quite enough. When you're finished, just take those vice grips. You can release them and use a wrench, or just spin this around if you got the room. That bolt comes out. This part we can all reuse for the second one. Let's see how our work came out. The improvised tool is here on the bottom. This is the one we did first, professional tool. This is the one we did with the improvised tool. We've got a really nice crush around there. That's going to hold really well. So now this is the firewall of your tractor. We can set our valve on there and use bolts and nuts just like we normally would. We've got a lock washer here and a washer. You can tighten that up with a 1/2-inch wrench or ratchet, and your valve is secured to the tractor. On to the next step.
Okay, we're back at the tractor, continuing the installation. We're ready to put the knob on. It's got a lock washer right there. Thread it into the piston. And often this piston will start to spin before this gets as tight as you want. So to finish tightening, I'm gonna slide the piston in, and I can use a pair of vice grips on the very outside part of this piston. Do not grab with pliers on this inner part. That part has to slide into the piston. But I can grab on the outside of this circlip to tighten. So I'm gonna grab it there. It's still got clearance for the knob to turn. There we go. We're all the way tight. We're done under the hood since it's bolted up. Now let's get the hydraulics connected. To connect the hydraulics on this tractor, I'm gonna look at my color bands here. The white and yellow are the lift circuit. The red and blue are the dump circuit. Today we're running remotes to the back of this tractor, and the lift circuit generally works best for that. So white and yellow. And what that does is, for something you've got on the rear, if you use the lift circuit, you have the option of the float function. So if you've got a hydraulic top link or a sickle bar mower that folds off the side and you want to be able to let that cylinder float, it works really well just to shove that loader lever up into float, and you can kind of ignore what's going on with the cylinder. It'll do its own thing. The white hose and coupler is in its own protective sleeve on this tractor. The yellow was in with the red and blue, and I disconnected those, pulled the yellow, so it's independent now. Before you disconnect your hydraulic quick couplers, I want you to stay out of the way of any moving parts and move your loader lever to all 4 positions to make sure all the pressure is out of the loader hydraulic system. Do that right before you do the disconnections, because even hoses sitting in the sun can create pressure, and then something could move, which is dangerous, or you could have pressure in one of the lines. If you disconnect it under pressure, you're gonna have a really hard time reconnecting it. So, all the pressure's out of the system. Now I can disconnect my white and my yellow and bring them back to my diverter valve. Do these one at a time. The white is in front here, so let's do white first. I'm gonna bring it up out of this routing. I'm gonna tuck it down, and since white was in the front here, I'm gonna take it to the front circuit of the switching valve here. The top is the return from the switching valve to the loader. The middle is the input from the tractor into the switching valve. I'm gonna take the hose out of the front circuit and plug it right back here to the white. Okay, I'm gonna repeat for the yellow circuit. It's in the rear, so it's gonna go to the rear coupler here. And this yellow was in this other protective sleeve. I pulled the protective sleeve up and got it out of there. We can get a neat routing here, and then we've got plenty of zip ties in the kit to secure these out of the way so nothing's rubbing. Yellow's connected to the switching valve, and our supply line comes right back. With those simple steps, that's it to connect this diverter valve into your loader circuit. The last step now is to take our remote hoses, and if you're going to the front of the tractor, you'll want to leave a little slack here so that the loader movement doesn't pull them tight. You can run them clear up to the front. You've got 8 feet of hose on most kits to get clear up to the crossbar on the front of the tractor. This tractor, we're running the remotes to the rear. So I'm going to be looking for a nice safe routing that keeps the hoses away from anything hot or anything moving, and keeps them up out of the way so branches can't hit the hoses and cause any trouble. When I first dropped the hoses under the tractor, I took this lower route and took it up and over this bracket and up to the back of the tractor. But that had me feeling this hose was a little too much in harm's way next to the oil filters. That'll be a pain later. This is the brake bar that moves, and the hoses are just down too low. So take a look. There is a higher route up above all the hydraulic hoses. Still easy to get out to the front, and it runs up and over these rear elbows. So easy place to secure the hoses to, and then we're right out to the axle. Here at the back of the tractor, I've got the remote couplers run. We went over the fuel tank and up in a really safe area that's not going to be catching on limbs or anything. I've taken a minute to detangle the hoses, get them as straight as I can, and now I'm going to look for a mounting spot. This kit comes with a T-bracket and a backer piece. I really like this spot on the roll bar that I can mount this T-bracket, the backer plate behind it, and those two couplers will sit right here out of harm's way and easy to connect to. With your T-bar and backer piece, I'm going to slide the bolts through the backer, go around this roll bar, and set the T-bar in place. On goes a lock washer and nut. Those tighten up with a 1/2-inch wrench and backer. Now I can set my remote couplers onto the T-bracket. To do that, I take a U-bolt that's in the kit, slide it through the biggest groove on this quick coupler, and slide that into the T-bracket. On the back of there goes a lock washer and nut. Before we declare it totally finished here in the rear, I want to take a male coupler, and here I've got it attached to a hose on this hydraulic top link. And I want to make sure that these couplers are able to engage and disengage the coupler just fine. So you want to pay attention to the back side of this coupler with the hose. This whole inner sleeve has to be able to slide in and out about 3/8 of an inch in order to receive and release a male coupler. If you've got any pressure inside, or if the hoses can't move enough, the coupler will not go in and out. So let's check this out and make sure everything works. Push in to connect, pull out to disconnect. Push in to connect. Uh-oh, I see trouble with this one. This hose right here is kind of rubbing up against this thicker part of the rollover protection. So I think what I need to do is loosen the bolts on the mount, change its angle just a little bit so that that's got room to move. There we go. That hose is no longer up against this thicker part, and my bottom one still has plenty of room. Now it's going to be able to move. I'm going to retighten this and then check them again. All right, let's try this again. Push to connect, pull to disconnect. Perfect. Okay, installation of the remotes is complete. Well, there you have it, the simplest and most affordable way to get a set of remote hydraulics on your tractor. Today on a Kubota L6060, but I build these for all makes and models of tractors. Check out my website below, tractorinnovations.com. There I've got all different kits. I've got hydraulic top links, hydraulic side links, and if you don't see yours listed, give me a call. My phone number is there, and I can come up with a custom solution for you. So with just a push and pull of this knob, you activate and deactivate your remote, and you power it simply from your loader handle. Let me fire up this tractor and show you how it works. With the knob pushed in, I've got my total normal loader function: lift and dump. Of course, things are only going to move down while I've got the tractor off. I'll fire it up in a second and show you that movement in both directions. When I want to use the remote on the rear, I pull out on this knob, and now my lift function is frozen in the front of the tractor. I still have my dump function, but lift and lower, forward and back movement on this loader lever is going to control whatever I've got hooked up to the rear. So let me fire it up. I'm going to start with the knob in, controlling the loader as normally, and then I'll switch to the remotes. With the knob in, I've got totally normal loader. Lift, and when I'm ready to run the remote, pull out on this knob. Now I've got control of my blade in the back. And I still have my dump function if I need to do that while I'm on the fly. When I'm ready to go back to my total normal loader function, push in on the knob, and when the knob is pushed in, that cylinder in the back is locked in place. I can do all sorts of work without worrying that it's going to move. That's it. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe to my channel. That helps other people find these videos and get more out of their tractor. Thanks for watching.